What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Beyond Built podcast. This is the podcast to help you become the most powerful, confident leader and coach you can be. And in today's episode, I'm going to talk about the difference between coaching and leadership. There's a big difference between the two. Coaching is about helping someone make progress. It's structure, it's response, it's adjustments, it's feedback. It's like the bare minimum in terms of what a client gets from you. Versus leadership is about helping an individual see way more for themselves. It's about helping someone expand their vision for their life like 10x. It's about helping someone see the distance from now where they picture, now where they see themselves going and where their life is going to be. They have conviction that they are going to get there, and they see the distance between that and where they have been settling. And that distance is what creates the urgency for them to adhere, for them to show up, for them to not miss, and become a leader inside of your coaching community. Part of the big reason we've decided to help online coaches is quite literally because we've had people come into our container say, hey, I want to be a coach. And one of our clients in the container, her name is Denver. She literally spent a month inside of our container and immediately experienced the standard of excellence that we were holding her to and our clients to. And it woke up something in her to be like, why have I been trying to bring people in and be loose and flowy in my coaching approach and just be like accepting, like acknowledging and just being like, yeah, it's okay. Like helping people intuitive eat if they don't want to track their macros. Why have I been doing that for such a long time if Beyond Built is bringing out an athlete in me that's always freaking been there? And she rebranded her company to being a recomp transformation to where she teaches people discipline, she teaches people macros, she teaches people training intensity. She's made a big pivot in the way that she's showing up in her content. She's showing off her physique, she's showing off her training. And in that rebrand, guys, she did this in 1 month's time. She did a 20K weekend on that rebrand. This is the leadership versus coaching thing that I'm talking about right now. When you're coaching, you're simply adjusting the plan. When you're leading, you're adjusting the person to rise to the plan and to rise to a greater plan that they don't even see for themselves yet. So this is what our conversation today is going to be about. How to bridge that gap so you can stop just being a coach who changes macros, but you can become a coach who truly changes standards. And not just standards for your client, but the standards of the people around that client the same way Denver did that. First, I want to give you guys some personal context on this. There was a point in time, I'm not proud of this point in time at all, but I had to open up about it because this is the reality of leadership. Like, there's going to be moments where you just flat out fucking suck at it. Like, I understand that there's people out there like, oh, you're such a natural born leader. You know, you have a gift for the guys. It's really all skill and experience. It's all skill and experience. You know, I've gotten to where I've gotten because I've been good at self-leading myself, sure. I've also had incredible leaders and incredible mentors in my life that have given me insight on how to lead myself more effectively. But at the end of the day, like, you gotta fuck up a lot of times too. And there was a point in time, guys, where I was handling an 80-person client load and client roster, and the coaches on our staff weren't fulfilling at the same clip that I was, meaning their side-by-side transformations weren't as transformational, meaning their re-sign rates were not the same as mine, meaning their compliance rates and how many clients out of their entire roster were checking in were lower than mine. And they were handling like half the client load to even a quarter of the client load that I was handling. And I was so caught up in focusing on coaching versus truly showing up for our coaches on our staff to lead them to be able to produce the transformations that I was producing, that I ended up like building this kind of like burn and churn freaking business for a little bit of time. And I'm not proud of it. And I had to face that reality and face that truth and be like, all right, dude, like, it's time that you truly lead and show up for these coaches. And full transparency, we now have a different coaching staff than we did at that time, Reason being is because I demanded a very high standard, and some people were not able to rise to that standard. Some people were able to rise to that standard. And now I look at it, I have the smallest client roster in Beyond Built now. And the side-by-side transformations, our retention rate, the check-in rate, everything is actually better than it was when I was handling an 80-person client roster myself. And it's there because I focused on showing up for our staff and leading. I want to go into some specific scenarios to help you get a better grasp of this difference between coaching and leadership as well. Coaching would be adjusting macros when a client says that they're struggling. Let's say that a client is like, hey, I feel like I'm not seeing fat loss right now. I feel like progress should be a little bit faster. And then you go in and just tick the macros down a little bit to make them happy. Versus keeping their macros steady until they prove to you 90% plus compliance and adherence, and holding them to that very clear standard. That's the difference between leadership and coaching. Coaching would be writing a new training split for a client when motivation dips after like 4 weeks. They're like, hey, can we change these movements? Versus challenging that client to say, hey, we're not changing anything in your program until I've seen how you've executed every single movement in this program. If you're leaving range of motion on the plate, if you're not feeling the muscle correctly, and you're not sending form videos, there's probably something that you're leaving on the plate. There's probably an adjustment that we need to make that we're not making because I'm not seeing your videos. And so it's irresponsible of me to actually change your program if I don't know how you're moving. It's irresponsible of me to actually adjust your calories up in reverse diet if I don't know if you're training hard enough to actually utilize the extra food I'm giving you. It's irresponsible of me to take your calories down even further if I don't know if you're training hard enough to actually retain the muscle that you want to build, because my goal here is not to make you skinny fat. My goal is to actually make you look lean. In order to do that, we need to retain muscle mass. So can you send over training videos before I make any adjustment? Like that's leadership. See how I'm drawing lines? See how I'm holding clients to a standard? Seeing how I am being within integrity when it comes to my coaching values and what I know is actually best for the client versus what they think is best for themselves. What they think is best for themselves is ultimately the reason why they ended up on your client roster. So you need to understand that. Coaching is just responding to check-ins and going through line by line, acknowledging the thing, and then moving forward. Leadership is having very clear standards around what is even expected before the check-in even happens. 2 to 3 form videos this week. Did they send them? If someone's struggling with macro adherence, expectation to actually screenshot your pre-logged macros, send them to me in the morning so you can show me that you're spending the 5 to 10 minutes in the morning that you need to be to pre-track your food, because not hitting your macros is not an excuse at this point. It's literally a lack of preparation and lack of effort, because you're already putting in your macros, but you're saying, oops, went over my fat 20 grams. Yeah, because you didn't pre-track. So I need you to do that before you even check in. Like, it's very clear expectations for them to do something differently before they even send you another check-in. Each check-in, you should see insane improvements, especially within the first 4 weeks of a program. Like, the reality is this: we get a client adherent as fuck within no more than 4 weeks inside of Beyond Built, because we set those very clear expectations from the forefront, not only from an onboarding call, but in between each check-in. And these are also systems that we give to the coaches that we work with inside of our container now. Because I've gone through so much and I've had to really train up our staff and our team to be able to produce transformations at such a high standard that now I'm able to pay what I know forward to the clients and the coaches that we work with now in Beyond Built. It's sick as fuck. Pay attention closely to this one. Coaching is answering questions. You'd think, well, yeah, it's my responsibility to answer questions. Leadership is actually asking them a better question than they ask you to get them to come up with a solution themselves. What we're building in people is autonomy. What we're building within an individual is the confidence, the conviction, the self-belief to stay accountable to themselves in the long run, because they're not going to work with you forever, right? Unless they're like clients that we have in Beyond Built who literally love the community so much that they just don't want to leave. But you don't want a client to resign because they feel like they need you. You want a client to resign because they want you in their lives and they value your leadership and your guidance and your ability to keep them expanding with established trust that you got them exactly where you said you were going to get them within the time frame that you guys work together. What I mean by asking your client a better question is, for example, we had a coach literally ask us, hey, I'm going out for sushi this weekend. Like, how do you want me to track it? I was like, what would you tell a client? Well, I'd tell them to like track something in from like Benihana and just go with what's most accurate. Boom. There's also questions that we get around, hey, I want to see my community more engaged. You guys have your community so engaged. Like how can I get my community to this level? Because I feel like sometimes I go in and ask questions and I pop in there and it's just crickets. I could explain and answer that question with every single strategy and tool that I know, or I could ask them questions to further understand their scenario. And in the process of that, they might find their answer. Well, are you creating valuable content for your clients inside of your container that makes them actually want to tune into that? Like, is the content that you're creating of value, or are you just asking them, what are you guys eating today? And then we're going to have a conversation around that, right? I'm challenging them. I'm calling them forward to be insightful. And over time, what this does is it trains the client how to ask very insightful questions. They're almost half answering the question when they ask it. I feel like X, Y, and Z, but I want to also understand your insight on this and if you've also experienced this versus just flat out asking, hey, what's this? They're asking very high level questions, very insightful questions. And man, does that make your life easier because all of a sudden you are now more potent when it comes to your coaching. You're more valuable in the time that you spend with your clients versus making yourself very available to all of the questions in the world. This is how you train your clients to be more autonomous and how you train your clients to ask higher quality questions, because the client who asks themselves and you a higher quality question will live a higher quality life, because the answer to higher quality questions are the answers that actually propel them forward. Coaching would be focusing on like fixing short-term problems that come up for a client. Short-term problems could be like they're traveling for work on a monthly basis, and every time that they do, they just completely self-sabotage their progress. And in that scenario, you just keep giving them more strategies and more strategies and more strategies versus like taking a full step back and painting the entire picture and zooming out and being like, hey, this work travel thing, it's not going to stop unless you quit your job. Are you going to quit your job anytime soon? No. Cool. Obviously, we're 2 months into the program now. We have 10 months left, right? I could keep giving you more tips and tricks, but it seems like that's really not working, because it seems like you're taking that stuff, but you're not really applying it because you've been in this pattern for like 3 years now, right? Cool. Well, you're aware of the pattern, which is the first step, right? But the last thing we're going to do is pay me to coach you just to repeat the same pattern. Now, mind you, just paying me, investing in me isn't going to break the pattern. Is that fair? Cool. We're going to actually need to work on breaking that together. And if we don't break it, are we going to be exactly where we want to be, painting their exact outcome? Hey, I want to lose 30 pounds. Are we going to be 30 pounds down? You're painting the vision. You're painting the picture of what they've done leading up to this point. You're giving them an option. You're giving them a choice. And what you're training that client to do is to make the choice to do different. Have the conversation with them to make the choice to be different. And when you frame it as you want to be someone that has integrity, you want to be a man or woman of your word. This is bigger than 30 pounds. This is about staying true to the person that you say that you want to be. All of a sudden, they're a lot more compelled to make a different choice and make a different decision going into that weekend. But you gotta paint those scenarios out. That's the difference between just giving someone strategies versus fully painting the picture out and being like, hey, this is the line in the sand. Because if we don't change this now, we're going to be very unhappy 12 months down the line, feeling like we didn't make progress that we wanted to see. Because if we can't figure out how to do this and make results while you travel for work, we're always going to be waiting for things to calm down. And as long as we're waiting for things to calm down, we're going to be consistently stressed and overwhelmed because things are never going to calm down. And we're going to feel like we're living a life that is against us rather than for us. And honestly, I think that's the source of why your stress is an 8 out of 10 right now, is because you're doing it to yourself. Like, that's leadership. Coaching is giving words of encouragement and giving grace when effort drops. There's a time and place for that, for sure. You don't want someone to feel ashamed for what they just did. Absolutely not. You don't want someone to feel guilty for what they just did, but you do need to create a fuck ton of urgency to actually do something differently about that. And so calling out the misalignment, and again, who they say they want to be versus who they are being, is what you need to do with love, with honesty, with respect, and with truth. And it's painting the picture. It's like, hey, you say you want to be this person. This is what you did, right? In order to get this output, the inputs need to change, right? I'm not here to force you to do differently. I'm not. I'm here to guide you. I'm here to lead you. But at the end of the day, This needs to be your standard that you want for yourself, because if it's only my standard for you, then my standard is going to feel like stress. If I start to feel like stress, then you're going to start to resent me. If you start to resent me, you're going to not check in. If you don't check in, you're going to ultimately waste your money on this program. Is that what you want to have happen? They're going to say, no, that's not what I want to have happen. Great. So is this what you want to do? Is this who you say you want to be? Because that is your choice. You can tell me right here, right now, this is not who you want to be. And if that's the case, then I'm just going to say that this probably isn't going to be the best thing to do moving forward. Because again, I'm just going to continue to feel like stress in your life, and I continue to feel like stress in your life, then this isn't going to work. But to be fair, I think the only stress that you're creating in your life is ultimately self-created, because you're acting out of alignment with who you say you want to be. And no matter what happens in your life, the most stressful thing that you can do is to act out of integrity with who you are and who you want to be. That's it. It's going to make everything else in your life feel that much more frustrating. So what do you want to do here? Again, that's leadership. Biggest reason why we've seen the level of transformation that we have inside of this program is because from a leadership standpoint, our coaches here, we are consistently stretching outside the lines. We are consistently pushing ourselves to bigger and bigger and bigger goals. Like literally on our quarterly review with one of our coaches, Zach, he's actively competing in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitions. And he said, I want to get onto one of your guys' rosters and put myself in a muscle gain phase, because I've been focused really on athleticism over the last year, and I've developed a ton of skill in that. And also I have a lot of my clients about to go into a gaining phase, and like, I love where I'm at aesthetically, but I want to push myself. I want to do something that's uncomfortable. I want to lead from the front. Because he's doing that, guys, like he is giving all of his clients the permission to expand. He had all of his clients on his roster. None of them have actually done true muscle building phases. They're finishing up fat loss. And as they finish up fat loss, they're already going to re-sign with Zach, because he's painting the future of like, hey, now you get to gain muscle. It's like, if you only do the fat loss thing and you don't learn how to do this thing, you'll be happy with these results, but this is the thing that's actually going to make you really visibly look lean all year round. I'm going to do this with you. Let's fucking go. They've already made up their minds that they're going to re-sign with Zach, is because he's painting that future vision for them, because he's always stretching and expanding himself. When you do that for yourself, you give your clients the permission to do that. And it's the reason why we have clients come in here a year later, they had no idea they want to compete. They see other people in the program do it. They see us do it. And they're like, yo, I want to do that too. I want to make myself uncomfortable. I want to document something like that. I want that to be a part of like my personal brand. The thing between coaching and leadership, guys, is you are always going to tell a client that it's okay. You're always going to let a client push you over if you're not actively doing the thing that you're asking that client to do. So telling a client, oh yeah, it's okay, don't track this weekend. You're always going to tell your client, yeah, it's okay, don't track this weekend if you don't track on the weekends yourself. And you're wondering why clients' fat loss is sticky. You're wondering why they're having such a hard time getting back into it on Monday. You're wondering why you're literally keeping the client in the same pattern of being on for a certain amount of time and off for a certain amount of time, because you're doing that same thing yourself. When a prospect's on the phone and they're like, oh my God, I just really need to think about it, I'm not sure. And you're just like, yeah, let's just follow up tomorrow. You're saying that, hey, let's follow up tomorrow when it comes to your own goals, when it comes to your own physique, when it comes to your own standards. That's reality. You can't fight and teach somebody, a prospect or a client, how to fight for themselves if you are not fighting for what you see on your vision board. If you are not fighting for the life that you say you want to build, if you're not fighting for the business that you say you want to build, if you're not fighting for the physique that you say you want to build, if you're not actively showcasing that, you're not going to teach your clients and or prospects how to fight for themselves. And it is your responsibility to fight for them, because they are there right now because they don't have anybody advocating for their goals in their life. They don't, guys. They don't. And if you look around right now at your core environment and you don't look at people right now that are fighting for your goals, that are encouraging you, that are challenging you, that are calling you forward, that are excelling to a point to where it makes you look at yourself and be like, fuck, I need to catch up on a consistent basis. What makes you think that these people on your roster or even out there in your audience have that kind of energy around them themselves? They don't. And how do you get around that energy? Well, you get around that energy by advocating for your own personal goals and being selfish as fuck about them, because the most selfless thing that you can do is display selfishness for your own goals to other people around you, because it would teach them how to do it for themselves. And it's much better to create connection with people around you that are doing that rather than create connection around people that aren't doing that for themselves. What you think is connection is actually comfort. The real connection that you're looking for is getting around people that grow. And you need to create that kind of community for your clients. But the only way that you create that community for your clients is by becoming that individual yourself. You're always going to change a client's program every 4 to 6 weeks if you cannot follow your own program for more than a month. If you are going through the motions with your own training, if you were scrolling on your phone, checking messages, getting back to messages in between sets and leaving the gym early, like you're always going to have the clients that ask you to change their program, and you're not going to have the understanding or the knowledge to be able to reframe them and say, hey, we're not doing this. This is actually how we do things here. This is the standard. Like clients that come in and train with us already know that we're going to hold them to that standard because of how we display it, how we show up. How are you going to sit there and explain the concept of directed adaptation? Imagine that you're living in Tampa, Florida, and it started to snow 6 months out of the year immediately. Well, that would be terrible because the city would basically freaking burn down. People would be out of work, and the city would need to reconstruct itself in order to withhold the damages of snow. And so if you're consistently doing that to your body and creating new damage by always changing up your training plan, you don't give yourself the opportunity to grow. The economy of Tampa, Florida cannot build if no one's working, right? Everyone's out of work and we're consistently reconstructing the city. Your body works the same way. It has a certain amount of juice in the tank that you can utilize to recover from the damages that you're creating. And as you do that over time, you create adaptations in place that will support more progressive overload, that will support more growth. But those adaptations never get created if new damage is consistently happening. So you can't explain that to a client, though, if you're not practicing that yourself. You're always going to end a client's diet early once it gets a little bit harder and call it sustainability and call it balance because you have not broken past that uncomfortable point to get yourself shredded, to get yourself to a place to where you see a little bit of veins popping through, some abs popping through, some striations popping through. And the whole point is not to get there and maintain that year round. The whole point is getting there so you give yourself a long enough runway to be in a gaining phase for over a year and stay lean during it. But you don't teach clients how to actually transition into a muscle building phase if you haven't done that. What you teach clients how to do is just get lean enough and end up putting back the comfortable amount of 10 pounds that they lost over the course of the next year, getting them and leaving them in a position to where they're searching for their next program. That's not coaching. You're always going to sugarcoat things in your check-ins. If you were sugarcoating your own physique and your own standards and your own truth right now, it's reality. If you guys listen to my content, if you guys listen to past podcast episodes, I talk about lines in the sand. I talked about a line in the sand earlier on this call, and that comes with brutal honesty, and that comes with not sugarcoating the truth and not avoiding it because you're being devoted to being a business owner, or devoted to being a leader, or devoted to being a content creator. I'm going to give you guys some practical examples too when it comes to navigating specific client scenarios, because basically every single day inside of our container, inside of Slack, like we're helping at least 4 or 5 coaches with individual case-by-case scenarios, and we're teaching them how to show up as leaders more than coaches. For example, if a client is consistently missing a check-in and you're like, hey, is your app working? Hey, is everything okay? Hey, what's up? Like you're giving like poke button 2014 Facebook vibes. Like those days are long behind us now. What people need is, what they need to be taught is how to respect you. And as a byproduct of learning how to respect you, they'll learn how to respect themselves enough. But people don't learn respect by what you explain to them. People learn respect by what you are willing to tolerate. And people learn respect by experiencing the consequence of their own behavior. And what I mean by this is that what happens when we see a client miss their check-ins? A part of us feels disrespected, right? Here we are, like we wrote a program, we're showing up, we're doing everything that we possibly can for this client, and they're not showing up. Is it frustrating? Sure, it is, absolutely, right? And they need to also understand that. It's like, here's the thing, Jamie. Like you've missed a couple check-ins in a row here. You haven't opened my last check-in, and I'm just gonna send this voice message right now because the last thing I want is for you to feel like I don't actually believe in you. And when I don't see you checking in for 3 straight weeks, the stories in my head that come up are, man, Jamie just doesn't believe in herself right now. Jamie's doing the same thing. Jamie's falling off again. That she's doing the same exact thing that she told me she wanted to change. And like, that sucks because, to be fair, Jamie, I don't know if you have people in your life that are fighting for you and advocating for your goals. And to be fair, I don't think that you are maybe fighting for your goals and advocating for your goals as much as you want to. And I am. But when I don't see you check in and those stories enter my head, it sucks because it's like, fuck, I don't want to think this about you. And so the fact of the matter is this: something might have happened. Something might have come up in life. And I'm like, oh shit, like, it's not Jamie falling off. Some shit happened. And just let me know what's hard, because the whole point is leaning in when it is hard so we can get through this together. That's the whole point of this, because it is going to be hard at times, and leaning into accountability is going to teach you how to make progress when things are hard, so that way you never fall off again. That's the whole point. That's the whole point of being here. Or the fact of the matter is this: if you are no longer advocating for your goals and this isn't what you want and your goals are completely misaligned, then I'm going to feel like stress. And if I feel like stress, then there's going to be resent that you feel towards me. And I care about a relationship too much to let that be the case. So kind of let's let me know what's up here, so we know where to go moving forward. And that's it. And you don't do more, hey, how are yous? You don't fucking stalk their Instagram story. You wait for them to respond to that. And if they choose not to respond to that, they're choosing not to respect you. And we don't help people that don't respect us. Guys, that's leadership. I'm going to leave you with this. If you've gotten value from this episode so far, snag a screenshot of this episode, tag us in your story at Chad Morgan Fit. And if you want coaching for yourself to show up for yourself at a high level as your business grows and as you take on more clients, and if you want mentorship on how to lead your clients at the highest of levels so you can produce better side-by-side transformations and make re-signs easy and get your community super engaged, hit the link in the description of this podcast. But again, I'll leave you with this: you can only be strong and convicted enough in your beliefs to hold that line and hold your clients to that standard if you have experienced firsthand how that line, how that boundary, and how that standard has changed your own life.